Guys, and welcome back to the channel. We have an absolute blockbuster video to get into. It is the fifth slam, as they like to call it, in tennis paradise, Indian Wells, and we're going to be breaking down the men's draw. And what a packed draw it is. The draw has just, I looked at it very briefly and I thought, wow, this is crazy. We're going to get into it, of course. Before we do get into it, though, remember that like button, do subscribe if you're new, and do leave a rating or review if you are listening on a podcast platform. So at the time of recording, there are still some qualifiers going on. So we're not going to get a full picture of every single qualifier that's obviously going to make it through. So I'm going to make the assumption that the seed's going to go through. That's not always the case, of course, but it's very unlikely that I've looked at the roster, is going to get through and make the semis, even maybe the quarters, and I don't think they're going to win the tournament. But you never know. Tennis is weird and wacky at times, so maybe that will happen. But in my view, probably not. So no Yannick Sinner, due to the ban, of course. So Zverev is the top seed. Alcaraz is looking for his third straight Indian Wells title, so going for the three-peat. And Djokovic is looking for his 100th title. So a lot on the line for these players, to be honest. And it's going to be great to see how they battle it out. Before we get into every single match and work our way through the draw as always, and I'll give you guys my champion, I want to talk about the projected quarterfinals because it is crazy. I actually think these quarterfinals, in terms of projected quarterfinals with the seeds, they could arguably be the best projected quarterfinals we could have gotten. Maybe. So Zverev versus Tsitsipas is the first one. And Tsitsipas is playing some really good tennis. Zverev hasn't been playing great tennis. I think that actually matches up quite well at Indian Wells. And with, of course, the new surface that they've laid out, which is going to be a little bit quicker than Indian Wells of previous years, I'm not sure who it suits. Probably does suit Zverev more, I would say, the slightly quicker surface. So Zverev to Tsitsipas, that is 10-6 in favor of Tsitsipas in the head-to-head, but 4-3 in favor of Zverev on outdoor hard courts. So that's what we really want to look at, right? Outdoor hard courts, Zverev has had the upper hand just against Steph. Then we have the other projected quarterfinal in the top half, which is Casper Ruud versus Daniel Medvedev. Medvedev has never lost to Ruud. 3-love is the head-to-head in favor of the Russian, and they played once on outdoor hard court, and Medvedev beat him there as well, of course, given that he's never lost to Ruud. It would be crazy if I suddenly started saying Ruud won an outdoor hard court match, of course. Rublev and Fritz is the first projected quarterfinal in the bottom half. Look, this is a really good matchup, I think. 5-4 in favor of the American Taylor Fritz. On outdoor hard courts, he actually leads the head-to-head 3-1. So there is a bit of an advantage here. Of course, Fritz has won Indian Wells before in the past, beating Rafael Nadal in the final. So he has some fond memories here. It is, if I'm not mistaken, the closest thing he has to home in terms of a tournament. So this is going to be a real positive tournament for him to start to try and gain some traction and form this year, because it hasn't quite gone the way he would have liked, given how well he ended last year, making, of course, the US Open final, etc. And then Djokovic Alcaraz is the mind-boggling quarterfinal. They are like two attracting magnets that just cannot seem to keep away from each other. 5-3 is the head-to-head in favor of Djokovic. 2-0 in favor of Djokovic on outdoor hard court. So Alcaraz would be looking to win his first outdoor hard court match versus Djokovic in their rivalry, if both were, of course, to make that stage of the tournament. Let's get into the draw. So Alexander Zverev has a bye. He's a top seed, as I mentioned. And look, he hasn't been playing great as of late, so we'll see who he gets as the draw goes on. Kecmanovic and Griekspoor. Now, Griekspoor's been playing some good tennis. I'm going to go Griekspoor. Marijan and Pedro Martinez. Marijan for me. Pericard's got a qualifier, so we'll go with him. Mahaj has a bye. Alexander Bublik has a qualifier, as does Roberto Batista Agut. TFO and Runa both have buys. Corentin Moutet plays Jordan Thompson. I'm going to go Jordan Thompson in that one. And Kane Shikori for me to beat Jam Munar. Umber and Berrettini both have buys. Carberes Bayena plays Christopher O'Connell. That's a good matchup. I'm going to go the Australian, even Christopher O'Connell. Then an interesting matchup because Alexandre Muller's been playing some really good tennis recently. I think he's been probably playing above his ranking recently, that is. Same with Welch, of course, we know that he's also capable of doing the same. That'll be a really interesting matchup. I think actually potentially, trying to think on a hardcore, is it a 50-50? Probably not. Well, maybe it is actually, because I think both players are arguably better on clay, I would say. I'm going to go with Muller. Tsitsipas and Rude have buys. Giron has a qualifier. Zizou Bergs also has a qualifier. Poprin and Fils both have buys. Zhang Zhizhen plays a qualifier. And then we've got Roman Safiullin versus Riley Opelka, the wild card. Safiullin is a very, very underrated player on tour. I heard a lot of players talking about him when they asked who's the most underrated player or who's the most difficult player to play against. A lot of people actually talked about Safiullin, which is interesting because you don't really hear about him in mainstream media. He hasn't really had the results this year to kind of back up that sort of persona or status, but I think Opelka as well, being the big server he is with the slightly quicker surface, I know it's going to be humid and still it'll be relatively slow, but the humidity with Opelka's got so much variation on his serve. That kick serve is going to be carnage on these courts. It's going to be really tough to deal with. So I'm going to go with Opelka. Musetti and Paul both have buys. Tristan Boyer wild card plays Vukic. I'm going to go with the wild card in Boyer, actually. Cam Norrie plays Luca Nardi. That's a tough matchup for Cam. Of course, he's won Indian Wells before. It's a tough one, though. It's a tough matchup with Cam. Lechka has a bye. Mikkelsen has a bye. Flavio Coboli has a qualifier. Bassavareddy wildcard plays Boo. I'm going to go with Bassavareddy. Medvedev and Rublev both have buys. Arnaldi, Kovacevic. Kovacevic has been playing some decent tennis. Arnaldi has also been playing some good tennis. I'll go with the Italian. Matteo Arnaldi. Shevchenko and Hijikata will go Shevchenko there. Nakashima and Hachinov both have buys. Echeverry and Mensik. Look, if this was on clay, I'd go with Echeverry hands down. On a hard court, though, it's tough to not pick the Czech player Jakub Mensik. Lerner Tien versus Navone. Again, Tien very good on different surfaces. I'd say he's quite versatile. I think Navone, again, is more of a clay quarter, so we'll go with Tien. Shelton and Draper both have buys. Jacob Fernley has a tough first round against João Fonseca. Look, Fonseca plays with a lot of power, taking the ball early, a lot of spinning times as well. I actually have a feeling that Indian Wells might be a very comfortable place for him. He likes the clay courts, we know. We've seen him really explode onto the stage at the Australian Open, beating Andrei Rublev. I think this could be another tournament where he does have some very positive results at Indian Wells. So go with Fonseca. Bonzi and Brooksby. We'll go with Brooksby. Felix Auger-Aliassime as a buy, as Tabio. Lejovic to be a qualifier. Baez to be a qualifier. Fritz and Djokovic both have buys. Now, Kyrgios is going to play qualifier. Kyrgios is back. And we could have a potential Kyrgios-Djokovic second round, which I'm going to pick. That'd be mad. It would have been better if they weren't friends, actually, because I feel like Kyrgios would potentially play better. But I almost feel like because now they're really good friends, I almost feel like the edge has gone a little bit, and I don't really know whether he's going to have the real fire to beat Novak. Maybe you have competitive, bragging rights type of mentality where he feels that, when you want to beat your mates or your friends at a board game or a sports game or whatever else it might be, you want to be the one, right, who's winning, who's on top. So maybe it could be something along those lines, or it could be a case of actually doesn't mind losing to him because, he's such an advocate for Novak. He's almost part of the Knoll fam, to be fair now. If you see him interact with fans on X and Instagram. McDonald wildcard has Fakina for me. He's been playing well. Srundalo, Hurkacz both have buys. Darderi, Diaz Acosta Darderi. Goffan and Sonego. Dimitra both have buys. Rindenek versus Borges for me. Struff and Monfils, tough one. Tough one. I like Struff. I really like the way that he plays. I feel like he plays similar to how I play at club level. Of course, a million times better. What do you with Monfils? Korda has a bye, as a Shapovalov. I don't know, qualifiers playing each other. Halis has a qualifier, as does, Alcaraz has a bye. So, second round. Zverev Greek Sport. Look, Greek Sport could beat Zverev. I'm telling you now. I am telling you guys now that Zverev could lose this match. And I wouldn't be surprised. You know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm actually going to go for it. I just think Zverev, I don't think he quite believes that he should be the number 2 in the world at the moment. I think he said as much at the end of last year. And then now the fact that he's going to be the number 1 seed, there's going to be more pressure on being the number 1 seed. I don't think he's going to handle it that well. And despite his age and the fact that he seems to be getting somewhat more mature as his career's gone on, I just think up here, there's something to be sorted. The level is there. If he's mentally dialed in, I think he wins a slam easily in his career. But he's got less holes in his game than someone, for example, on paper like a Tsitsipas, even a Medvedev who's already won a slam, a Casper Ruud. I feel like he's of the now gen, he's the most complete player. But the issue with him is the mental side because he tends to become overly cautious, not do well in the crunch points, and we know at this level, those pressure points are what really that's what really makes you stand out. It's what really makes you stand out from the rest of the pack, right? If you want to be that top player who's winning slams, who has that fear factor, that's what you need to do. And I don't think he has that fear factor, if I'm being honest. I'm going to go Greek Sport. So cause the upset means Zverev. Pericard to beat Marajan. Mahac, who had a very good tournament at Acapulco to beat Bublik. If he's fit, he should win that. I'm a very big believer in his talent. TFO to beat Batista Agut. TFO in America is just something else. Runa and Thompson. Oh man, Runa has not been playing well. He's also been ill, been injured as well. So we do have to factor that in. But I'll go with Runa. Nishikori Umber for me. Berrettini, O'Connell, Berrettini. I've been impressed with his backhand Berrettini this year. I think he's really shored it up. Now, I don't think it's going to be Novak level or Yannick Sinner level or Medvedev or even Zverev level, but I think it's become less reliability, and that's a big, big plus. Tsitsipas to beat Muller, Rude to beat Giron, yeah. Popperin to beat Berg, sorry, even. Fils and Zhang Zhizhen, Fils. Apelka Massetti, that's a tough one. Massetti, I mean, that one-handed backhand is going to get a real test against that serve. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. So, let me have a look. So, Massetti, Apelka. Let's go with... What about Massetti? Tommy Paul and Tristan Boyer. Tommy Paul for me. Cam Norrie and Yuri Lehechka. Going to go Lehechka. Mikkelsen to beat Kaboli. Yeah. Medvedev to beat Basavaredi. Okay. Rublev and Alnaldi. Hmm. Hmm. Rublev. Shevchenko and Nakashima. Nakashima. Hachinov Mensik. Mensik, actually, for me. Tien and Shelton. This is a really good matchup. Two lefties. I mean, Shelton has been playing quite well, but Tien just seems on fire right now. He seems like a man possessed, the people that he's beating. Beat Zverev the other day on clay, and of course, beat Medvedev, the Australian Open. Shelton's got a different game, though. He's explosive. He's not going to grind with you from the back. So it's a question of how good is Tien's pace absorption. I'd say it's pretty good. I'm going to go with Leonard Tien. Jack Draper, João Fonseca. Mate, this is a tough match for Draper. This would be an explosive match. I hope we get this. So I need to think. Draper's lefty forehand into the backhand of Fonseca. Fonseca's backhand is not really a weakness. The forehand of Fonseca into the flat backhand of Draper, which again is not much of a weakness for Jack as well. On the serve return dynamic, Jack should dominate the serve. Returning, I think Fonseca will have the upper hand, so that the real crunch point is going to come on Jack's games. And can Fonseca really get into those games? Jack's got the more experience. He should have, I guess, more savvy tennis IQ. It's tough to look away from Fonseca, if I'm being honest. I'm gonna go with Fonseca to cause the upset. Brooksby and Felix Auger-Aliassime. Felix, he's been playing well recently. Tabio to beat Lajovic, Fritz to beat Baez. Look, I mean, Kyrgios might be able to do something for a few games against Djokovic, but he hasn't played enough tennis. So even Djokovic playing a 6 out of 10 is going to be more than enough to beat Kyrgios, I think. Fokina versus Cerundolo. Fokina for me. Hakac to beat Darderi. Dimona to beat Sonego. Borges to beat Dimitrov. The problem is Dimitrov is retired in every single tournament I think he's played this year so far. So his body's not holding up. So I don't have much hope that he's going to hold up much, if I'm being honest. Cordan, Monfils. Chaparro to be a qualifier. Alcaraz to beat Quinton Hallis, who's been playing quite well, by the way, as well. Right, third round. Greek Sport, Pericard. I mean, that'll be exciting, that will be. That'll be really exciting. That'll be really exciting. Hope we get that. Pericard or Greek Sport? Greek Sport for me. Mahac to beat TFO. Umber to beat Runa. Again, I'm not convinced about Runa's physical state right now. So I can't rely on him going deep in tournaments at the moment. Berrettini Tsitsipas, we saw that, of course, recently, and yeah, so Berrettini and Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas should be Berrettini again, I think. It'll be a tough one, though. It's 50-50, both playing really well right now. Rude and Poprin. Rude. Poprin could beat Rude. He could. We'll go Rude. Feast and Musetti. These are some tasty matchups. Feast? Really? On a hard court. Slowish hard court that's got slightly quicker. Yeah, sure. Okay. Tommy Paul to beat Lehechka. That's a tough one for Tommy, though. Lehechka is dangerous on hard courts. Mikkelsen, Medvedev. Mikkelsen could beat him. I'm going to go Medvedev, though. He's had some good results at Indian Wells. I'm hoping he's turned a corner a little bit. He's been playing slightly better the last week or so, or last couple of weeks. Rublev to beat Nakashima. Mensik Tien. Oh, mate. That's a fantastic matchup. That is really good. This is a tough one. I think maybe Tien might be too consistent for Mensik. Fonseca and Felix. Fonseca for me. Fritz to beat Tabio, Djokovic to beat Fokina. I think, yeah. Fokina's been playing well, but his style is very, I think it's tailor-made for Djokovic. Her catch Demona. I think Demon. Do I? No, not Indian Wells. I'm going to her catch. Her catch. Borges and Monfils. Monfils? Alcaraz beat Shapovalov. That could be a tough one. Shapo's been playing some really good tennis, but Alcaraz and Indian Wells is something else. A different monster. Mahatch to beat Greek Sport for me. Tsitsipas to beat Humbert. Feast to beat Rude. Tommy Paul to beat Medvedev, I think. Sorry, Medi. It's round of 16 now, of course. Rublev Tien. I think Rublev can do it, actually. Rublev. Fonseca, Fritz. I mean, does Fonseca lose to Fritz? Maybe. We'll go Fritz. Djokovic, her catch. I just don't know how far Fonseca can go. I mean, best of three, he's got a chance to go deeper, right? Because he's young. He can blow people away in the first couple of sets. Djokovic and her catch. Djokovic. I don't know. Yeah, it's not grass, so I think, yeah. Djokovic on a hard court. Alcaraz beat Monfils, even though Monfils is beaten, of course, Alcaraz. The quarterfinals I've got are Mahatch and Tsitsipas, Fils and Paul, Rublev and Fritz, and Djokovic and Alcaraz. Now, I'm going to go Djokovic Alcaraz first. If this is Djokovic from last year or year before, I'm picking Djokovic. This Djokovic this year, I think this is now Alcaraz's chance. If he wants to get a win over Djokovic on outdoor hard court, this will be the best chance he'll get. Djokovic could easily do what he did at the Australian Open, roll back the years, just completely put on a masterclass in tennis IQ and school him. It could be very possible. But I think Alcaraz is so comfortable on these courts. The only thing that might be slightly in Djokovic's advantage is that the courts are gotten slightly quicker given the surface. But really, I think you can't change the climate, right? The humidity, how heavy the ball's going to be. So I think Alcaraz, for me, will get the win. Rublev, Fritz. Rublev for me, actually. And Feast, Paul. I'm going to go with Tommy Paul. And Tsitsipas to beat Mahatch. So I've gone for a Tsitsipas Paul semi-final and a Rublev Alcaraz final. Alcaraz will beat Rublev. Tsitsipas will beat Tommy Paul. So a bit of recency bias here, and also Indian Wells bias, I guess, from previous years with a Tsitsipas and Alcaraz final. Now, look, Steph is playing well, and I actually think if we get this final, and I hope we do because it'll be an exciting one, even though the head-to-head is very one-sided in favor of Alcaraz, I think Steph could take a set off Alcaraz, but I think Alcaraz is going to do it. I think he's going to win 3 in a row. There's just something about Alcaraz and Indian Wells. It's like a match made in heaven. So Alcaraz for me to get the win. Let me know in the comment section below who you picked and why. Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe and well. We'll see you in the next video.